Hey, good evening, everybody. This is A.L. Johnson with What's Up Kansas City, and this is the state of our city with our sheriff of Jackson County, Mr. Darryl Forte. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I can't complain, man. I can't complain. The flu tried to get me, but I fought it off. So we're all good. We're all good. But let's jump right into it. Let's jump right into it. For those of you that are tuning in, we always want you to know that these conversations are live and interactive. And so if you have any questions or you want to add to the conversation, just drop your comment or your question into the comment section, and we'll try to get to as many of those as we possibly can. But first and foremost, I want to thank you for coming on, Mr. Forte. It's very rare that we have people in power in our community who are willing to have these open, honest, and transparent conversations, especially on a platform like this, live stream, social media. So we definitely respect you and appreciate you for that. I do want to jump into the election that we had on Tuesday. And so there were a couple of bills that were passed. I think people have a lot of questions. The first one is Amendment 3. It was about the recreational marijuana use. We know that goes into effect on December 8th. There's a couple different things. There are a couple questions that I wanted to ask you. The first one, what can people do to make sure that they are legally compliant from your perspective as the sheriff?
I don't have the amendment in front of me, so I won't cite anything specific. And what I want to tell everybody, and what I've been telling people even before it passed, when they talked about putting it on the up for vote, the Amendment 3, is make sure you're responsible and make sure those around you that are responsible. I anticipate it being more activity for law enforcement because now we'll have people driving while they're impaired with marijuana. So that's been my pitch since they talked about placing that on the ballot. I think we have to be responsible. Well, I know we have to be responsible and make sure, and we think we're okay. Even some people when they're drinking, they think, well, I'm okay. But, there's going to be a fine line between impairment and non-impairment. So when you're stopped and under suspicion of operating a motor vehicle while under the influence of marijuana, it might be a problem. So pay attention to that. And when you're around people that are smoking, make sure you take care of them too, and don't let them drive just like you wouldn't let an impaired driver using alcohol do the same thing.
Makes sense. Now, some people have a fear that there's, some gray area. So, can you educate us a little bit on, if someone gets pulled over and they're under suspicion of drinking alcohol, there's, the breathalyzer test, there's the walking the line, etc. Have you guys already started any training or implementation on what that will look like to know if someone is actually under the influence of marijuana or not?
We have deputies that are trained in drug recognition experts, so they understand what drugs might have what types of impairment on you. Everyone's not trained, but they can call a drug expert over, drug recognition expert. They call them DRE certified deputies, and they can come over and they can kind of tell if you impaired, whether it's with alcohol or marijuana or some other substance. So we'll probably rely heavily on them.
Okay, okay. Is there any technology or anything in the works that makes that sure? Or is it kind of at the discretion of the officer, or how does that look, or is it too soon to tell?
It'll always be at the discretion of officer. They can always take someone in, with the probable cause, take someone in, have blood drawn, things like that. So there's a lot of different avenues. To me, it'll be a lot more difficult to prove because you may not have that smell as strong. Because sometimes marijuana is really strong, and sometimes it's really not that strong. So, and you could have been around somebody that been smoking and it's on your clothes. So, I think there's going to be a lot of training involved.
There has to be because there's fears from people in the community that say, okay, when it comes to marijuana, it isn't as obvious per se as alcohol, and if there isn't any technology involved, how do we know for certain that all of those are lawful and just? And so I think that's where a lot of people in the community are kind of wondering how that's going to work and what that's going to look like.
And if anyone have any specific questions that they want me to do research on or something, because I said I just won't pull anything out of the hat now, because these things can turn into litigation later on. Somebody gets stopped. Absolutely. And they say Forte said this when he was on the show or something. So I won't be specific unless I can actually read from a document or get a legal opinion from my county counselor's office. So again, I throw my number out, 816-492-1076, 816-492-1076. And I can get you an exact answer if you have a specific question. But again, I just won't throw anything out without actually having the ordinance in front of me and doing some research if I need to do that.
I mean, we appreciate that, because in these kind of matters, it's really important that we have the right answer. And we want to make sure that we're not putting you in jeopardy in any type of way. And so we appreciate that. Can you repeat that number one more time for anyone that's watching?
816-492-1076. And that's my personal cell number, 816-492-1076.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The other thing, so the criminal records being expunged for people who have been arrested previously for marijuana convictions, marijuana related convictions. What are some things that people need to know in relation to that? Just any little tidbits of information on that.
And that's one of the things I had some concerns about in the amendment. It really wasn't specific. I mean, how far does it? I know they said 21 and over, nonviolent, and a couple of other pieces in there, but it really wasn't specific about how you go. It's not an automatic, from what I understand. You don't automatically get your record expunged for anything. You have to take action, and it wasn't clear in there about what action you need to take. So that's one of the concerns that I talked to some people about before it was actually, the time to vote on it. We had some questions on it. We had some questions about what does this mean? It's basically generic. So, it's not really a lot of detail in it.
Right, right. So at this point, we just know that in some type of way, people who have had marijuana convictions may be able to get those expunged. We don't know how far back they're going, what the process looks like, or anything like that. Are there any details as far as a date that we should anticipate a clearer path for those people?
No, I don't know. I'm not sure. Again, when you look at the amendment, there's a lot of questions, that are unanswered in that amendment. So I would say as far as the expungement, like I recommend that everybody on anything when they talk about expungement, seek legal counsel on how they might expunge. We get things in all the time for sex offender registration, expungement, and things like that. So we just refer people to legal counsel because I can't give legal advice.
Right, right. Just want to make sure. And for people who are, like I said, looking for that information, consult with the lawyer. Make sure that everything that you're doing is legal, everything's making sense. But overall, I think that a lot of people are excited about that amendment being passed. And so we'll see how that plays out over time, for sure, for sure. The next thing that we want to talk about is Amendment 4. And so in Amendment 4 that did pass in the Kansas City, Missouri budget, it looks like we'll be increasing from 20% going to the police department to 25%. And I know that this is maybe some gray area for you as far as commentary, but there has been a lot of conversation around, police funding, how all of that looks, where that goes. And so, with this 5% increase, have there been any talks on the table of what that additional 5% may go towards? Is it for more staff, more equipment? What is that going to look like?
I talked to a few people about this when they first talked about the amendment, and my concerns are that we have Kansas City and we have a statewide vote on what's happening in Kansas City. So it basically took it away from residents of Kansas City to say, how do you all feel, and gave it to the entire state that has nothing to do with Kansas City. And my personal opinion, that was an elected official flexing on our mayor. That's all that was. The mayor was saying we're not defunding Kansas City Police, according to my understanding. The mayor was saying, we're not defunding you. We're saying, let's redirect some of the funds with some accountability. And some people, some groups got angry and said, okay, we're going to flex on you. And this one particular elected official that's not even in Kansas City proper decided, okay, this is what we're going to do. That was just a straight out flex. I don't mind an amendment being, to let the people decide. But we have people in St. Louis deciding what happened in Kansas City, Columbia, Springfield. And that was my concern. If we want it in Kansas City or don't want it, let us decide. Don't have a statewide vote. And that just told me when they said statewide, they're just basically flexing on Mayor Lucas. That's all.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I was doing a little research, and I found that the KCPD is governed by the state of Missouri through a board of commissioners, which is actually just unlike any other major city in the United States. And there's no other city in the state of Missouri that operates that way. Do you know anything about the origins of that? Like, how did we get to that point? Why is it done that way?
Yes, years ago there was corruption in Kansas City politics. I won't say too much more about that because we still got corruption in politics, especially in Jackson County, because I've been exposed to some of that stuff. But and it never changed back. St. Louis was under that same system up until probably 4 or 5 years ago, and they voted it out. And our commissioners, and people talk about our commissioners not representing Kansas City. They represent the state. I was on the police department 31 and a half years, chief, 5.5 years. Our commissioners normally don't even know the mayor that appoints them. It's someone that submits their name, and they do that. So I see the benefit of having a commission because it's not political. These people are not political. The ones I've been around since my upper career, that's when I started paying attention as I got promoted and got higher. They're not political, and they make decisions to me, the ones I've been around, based on what's best for the city, and they're not worrying about political. They're not running for office. I hadn't seen not one person that was a commissioner run for office after being a commissioner, and they all reside in Kansas City. I think there might have been one that worked out of Kansas City a couple times, that or a few, but most of them reside in Kansas City. They raise their kids in Kansas City, and those kind of things. So there's pros and cons to having a commissioners that's not political in nature, because part of the reform efforts around the country was take the politics out of policing. And, you know, and we didn't have a lot of that, you know, in the police department. Of course, the mayor, by virtue of being the mayor, has a seat on the board. But other than that, we don't have a lot of politicians coming to get on the commission. So what I've seen, even being the chief, and I don't always agree with them, and I think they held me back on some things, which, you know, sometimes they probably should have, but I have my own strong opinion about some things. But it hasn't been political. You know, it hasn't been political. So that's one thing that I'm worried about. If we start putting people on the board and they worried about running for office or trying to be liked, these people, most of them had money. I can tell you that. That's how you got on the board. You know, you had name recognition and money, but none of them ran for office. That we didn't have any scandalous things. You know, we've had some things in city council where people, you know, have been investigated for criminal activity. Not a single time has a board member been investigated for any wrongdoing. So there's pros and cons. But yes, we're the only system like that in the country. Not just Missouri, but in the country. So
I found that to be real interesting.
My belief is, and my belief is, you know, people say we need local control. I'm not opposed to that, but identify what local control is. Will they report to a mayor? And if we got a rogue mayor, could he destroy it? Will we report to the city manager or all the council people? So if all the council people had some say, they're going to do what's good for their district. So now you have dysfunction. So it's a lot of different things, but I'm not opposed to local control, but define what it's going to be before I start signing up for something. You know, what's it going to look like?
Love it. We got a comment here from listener Karen Butter. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your support. She said, "Hi, Sheriff Forte. I admire your work and your journey." Anything that you want to say back to her?
I say thank you. I couldn't do this without the support of the community. This is about my 37th year in law enforcement, and I've been upper management probably a fourth of that. You know, where the deputy chief or higher chief or sheriff. I couldn't do this without the support of the community, and that's why I want to thank Cascade for giving me this opportunity to have another means to reach out to the community to say, thank you, I'm here. I don't want to be one of those elected officials show up during election time. I don't want to be the one that, you know, you don't know my name when we having protests. I want you all, that's why I give out my number on every time I talk, that I remember. I give out my number because I want you to be able to say, let me call Darryl Forte and get the real scoop on this. If I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know. And if I can find out, I'll find out. But I want you to have that connection, and that's what we've missed in law enforcement for decades. I called a law enforcement agency the other day, and this is what I was told. Nobody gets to talk to our chief directly. I'm thinking, okay, so when they're tearing up the city and then the chief wants to have a meeting with everybody and they don't get to talk to him, I don't want anybody to say, I can't get Darryl Forte. You might not like what I have to say. When you call me, I might say there's not much I can do. That's not my jurisdiction, or we don't get in their business because they already have a case going, and you might not like that. But I will always call you back. It might not be the same day, but and I don't have staff call you back. I will call you back because when something happens out in the community and I'm on here saying, hey, I need you to talk to me, I want to meet with you, I don't want you to say, I've never seen that guy. Who is that? So, I want to make sure I have credibility. And again, thank you. I wouldn't be able to do this without friends, families, and family members out there supporting me. You know, it's not easy. I love doing it most days. But I couldn't do it without the support. I wouldn't be here without the support. I got 82% of the elected vote versus 18% of a guy they kept saying was an incumbent. So I couldn't do that without you all. So thank you so much, and use me. And if I do something wrong, call me out. And if I'm wrong, most time I'll admit it if I'm wrong. But But let's talk about it. So I want you all to say I know somebody, and reach out to other people too. When you see somebody at the store, law enforcement, reach out and talk to them. We're just like everybody else. We have some rogues, but they're just a few compared to the majority. We have some rogues in law enforcement that shouldn't be there. We have some so-called leaders that shouldn't be there. But don't condemn an entire profession for those few. Help us identify those people so we can get them out of law enforcement. We have people at the sheriff's office that shouldn't be there, but it's a process you have to go through. We got racists, we got bigots, we got everything in this country in law enforcement. We have everything. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you we're all great, we're all perfect. We're messed up. And as a black male first chief and first sheriff, I've had some things happen to me because I'm black. People don't want to hear that when I'm talking at the office, whether it be the police department or the sheriff's office. But I had some things happen to me because I'm black. I'm not a victim. I'm not poor me. I'm just telling you that's the way it is. And those same people that are unfair in the office, they're unfair outside the office. And that's what I want to do, help identify some of those people that shouldn't be in law enforcement and get them out using due process. I have to say that so when they sue me, I want to use due process. Everybody gets an opportunity to show why they should still be here. But I'll do it the right way, and I won't target anybody. But as they self-identify, I will help them self-select out the door.
So when they say that blue wall, when they talk about that blue wall existing, where there's this camaraderie between people in law enforcement, where if someone's doing wrong, they really don't tell on each other. Is that a real thing, or is that just something we see on TV?
It's real for some people, but we have some people that will tell in a minute. They'll tell if they think something's wrong because they're not going to lose their house, their car, their job. We have a lot of people with integrity at the sheriff's office and at KCPD. Those are the two I can tell you because I've been intimately involved with both of them. We have a lot of good people at both places, but most is not good enough. And I say that over and over. We need everybody to be good people and be public servants for the right reason. And I'd like to share real quick the Governor Parson last month allocated $1 million to pay for academy tuition. So if there's anyone out there that's desiring a career in law enforcement and they want to go to an academy, and it has to be an academy in Missouri, there's a scholarship available up to $5,000. So anyone out there, you can look on, just Google it. I won't tell you the exact website because I don't know it. Just Google Governor Parsons scholarship program for recruits, and it'll pop up. You can use some of that language and it'll pop up. So if you know anyone that's interested in law enforcement that want scholarship up to $5,000, and that'll pay for most academies. Of course, you won't get any compensation to go, but if you know anyone's interested, that would be beneficial to all of us. And they don't have to stay in law enforcement. I know a lot of us won't talk about that. They don't have to stay in law enforcement. Go to the academy, try it out, and you'll still have that academy certification under your belt. You can open up your own private security company after you get a few years experience and things like that. So use what's out there. And I didn't see media covering a whole lot of that. I put it out there, social media, but our regular media didn't cover it. I didn't see anything about it.
Yeah, we'll make sure we spread the word on that. That's good information. I appreciate you sharing that. And we appreciate your transparency and honesty in these conversations. This is our third conversation here. And it really brings me to my next topic about freedom of speech. And so we see that in the times that we live in with social media platforms are banning people purely for what they say. So there's several different instances that come to mind between, Trump, Kanye West, Kyrie Irving, etc. Even in the conversations that we've had here, there are certain laws and rules that you have to abide by as an officer of the law that says that, I can't say this, I can't say that, I can't speak on these things. In general, not relation to the police department, but do you feel that we're at a point in history where our freedom of speech is, under risk of being taken away?
Yes, you know why? Because we don't own the media outlets. You look at the people that are censoring some of the things. They own the media outlets, so they can decide, okay, Darryl, I don't want you saying this, so I'm gonna cut your account. So we don't, and that's why I appreciate Cascade Media. I appreciate Cascade because we can talk and we can talk openly. And when you look at censorship, I haven't seen anyone censored for using the N-word. Now we've had some people on social media, the different platforms, they said crazy, threatening things about people of color, and they're still out there talking. But so I haven't seen any media outlet ban people for saying crazy, outrageous, hateful comments. But again, when you don't own anything, that's what we get.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Now, that goes both ways, So when you think of, say, like a Donald Trump, people said that he was spewing hate speech, all over Twitter, and then ultimately he got banned. Um, Sometimes when we ban people because we disagree with their point of view, all we're doing is setting ourselves up to be banned next when the masses don't agree with us. And so, do you see any situation in which you feel that a person should be muted because of what they're saying?
It had to. I'd have to have specific examples. I can't just do a general yes or no. Uh, I'd have to see. I'd see what the meaning of it is, what they meant. Sometimes people say some things because they're just stupid, not trying to be hateful. They just dumb.
Mm-hmm.
So and sometimes it's hard to decipher if they just dumb or trying to be hateful, because we have a lot of people out there that just don't understand interpersonal skills. They don't understand the damage that they cause when they say some things. So that's why I think it's important to figure out what context it's in. People say stupid things all the time, but are you doing it to hate speech? Are you trying to be funny, which is not acceptable? But just I'd have to see the individual incident before I could make a comment about whether thought that was acceptable or not acceptable, something like that. But again, like the good point that you made, if they censor them, they can censor me. I mean, so when you start that censorship, it can. Where does it stop? Where does it stop?
Exactly, exactly. Like I come from the viewpoint that all messages should be able to be put out, and it's up to us to disconnect ourselves if we don't agree with that message. But for us to say, hey, you can't speak anymore, we're going to deplatform you, or we're going to shut you down. I really don't believe that that's fair, and it really opens up the door for all of us to be muted. If you look at different countries, I don't have to name one specific, but different countries. You could be completely banned and pretty much disbarred from society based on what you put out on social media. And I just don't really think that that's fair. I think that we do have to be able to have open, honest conversations, no matter what it's about, no matter what your viewpoint is. And if a person disagrees, they just disagree. But at the end of the day, those individual silos are always going to exist. You're always going to have your members of the KKK and your racists, and you're going to have people that have differing opinions. You'll have black extremists. You'll have all of these different things. But if we start to mute one, eventually that can mute all of us, whether it's good or bad. And so that's just something I feel very uncomfortable whenever I hear someone being deplatformed, even if I don't agree with them.
That's right.
For sure, for sure. We've just got a few minutes left. If you're watching and if you have a question for Sheriff Forte, go ahead and drop that in the comments. We'll try to address this. We've got about 8 minutes left. I did want to touch on one last thing before we get off. I have a nonprofit. It's called Elevating Men. With Elevating Men, essentially what we do is we address the mental health of men so that they can become the best version of themselves, so they can be better for their families, and in turn we can build better communities. With you being a member of law enforcement, you deal directly with people who have, for lack of a better words, gotten off track, right? And so from your years of experience, what type of programs or things do you feel need to be implemented, whether it's at the state, city level, through the schools, or even through the home, the parents, how they interact with their children, that can keep more of our youth off the streets?
I think it's individual responsibility. We can't wait for the government to do a lot of things. That they're there to assist, but I think we have to raise our own. We have to raise our own, meaning the people in our neighborhoods, the people that we come across, where they're at a job. I didn't get to know my father till I was about 13, but I've had so many people, whether it be uncles or my friends, grandfathers, or whomever, that stopped me and said, Darryl, you better than this, man. You got to quit driving like this. You got to quit doing. I'm 60 years old. I've never tasted alcohol, and that's probably because of my mom. She told us when we were young, don't drink, and then work hard, give them more than what they pay you for, and all that kind of stuff. So having that strong upbringing, they called my mom the warden in the neighborhood. She was just strict and mean. She had 5
That sounds
kids,
like my mom.
and see, and it matters when you have
Yeah.
somebody that said, even when she was giving me discipline, I can't talk about how severe it was, because she'd get in trouble now. But even when she was disciplining me, she would say, I love you and you better than that. I remember that while she was, hitting me with the belt. I love you and you better than that. And I still remember that. And she used to say, no one can beat you at being you, and things like that. So I think those words of affirmation, even when you're doing something stupid, I love you, but what you're doing is wrong, and getting us back on the right track. And I think as men, we need to step up, whether they biologically our kids in our house, or somebody next door, or somebody we run across, and and we just stop and talk to them, say, man, I care about you, I love you, I care about your future, but you're going down the wrong path. You're going down the wrong path. So it's an individual responsibility, and this is what I share, and I'll do this again. I talked to my wife about it for this upcoming year. What I've done over the years, I find young men out there and they tell me they can't get a job or whatever, for whatever reason. I will buy them lawnmowers and say, start your own thing, knock on your own doors. And I'm putting that out there today. What I've learned too, I won't give the kid a lawnmower. I will give a parent or a guardian a lawnmower. So if something bad happens, you're not suing me. But so if you're a parent or guardian, and we're going to do 5 for next year, and I'll get used lawnmowers to start off, because oftentimes the uncle or somebody will end up taking a lawnmower or whatever. So I'll pledge to get 5 lawnmowers for kids out there, and get them a gas can, give them money for steel toe boots and little things like that, where they can say, I'm knocking on the door and I'm trying to mow a lawn and get my own money, and I'm not worried about somebody answering my online application. That's fine if you want to do that. And the reason I say this too, because when you have your own money and you have your own way of taking care of yourself, you don't compromise what you believe. I don't tell everybody this. I've been a licensed pest control exterminator since 1987. I was spraying before that. Okay. I keep my license and my insurance current. I'm a licensed private investigator. I have a dealer's license to sell cars. I sold over 20 cars so far this year. So I don't have to be for sale. And I was like that from the time I was young. I'm thinking, man, you got to do something. So if they mess with you at work, you're not subservient to anyone saying, well, I got to compromise and do this. I can speak up anytime I want to. Now, being 60 and being retired from the police department, I can continue to do what I've been doing. I do it for the right reason. I'm not looking for attention, but I can speak the truth. And I've been like this since I was a kid. Tell the truth about, we're not perfect in law enforcement, but I do want to say over and over, I think law enforcement is a great profession. We have a lot of great people in law enforcement. Again, Kansas City, Missouri Police Department and the Jackson County Sheriff's Office. Most of our people are good people, but we want them all to be good people. So that's what I keep striving for. So make your own money, have something on the side. And I know this thing's coming out about, don't have a backup plan. I've been hearing that lately. You don't need a backup plan. You better have a backup plan.
Better. Yeah. Especially in this economy.
Yeah. Well, and then you're not for sale. You're not for sale. So do those kind of things. And if you know someone needs a lawnmower, you got my number, but there's going to be some stipulations tied to that. I don't want everybody just thinking they're going to get a lawnmower to go pawn it. So call me and
everybody call Sheriff Forte. He's giving out free lawnmowers. Let's get it going.
Yeah, just 5 though, and they're going to be used.
No, there was something that you said. You said that you hadn't connected with your father until you were 13, but there were other men in the community, uncles, men in the neighborhood. You said your mother was strict, things like that. And that's what kept you on the right path. My question is, do you feel that Black men in our community right now are failing our youth?
No, there's so many people doing things and they're not waving a flag, say, look at me. There's so many people that stop people and have conversations with them that I talk to on a regular basis. You look at some of the people out there, and I won't name all the names, but I was talking to Pat Clark, a community outreach specialist out there the other day. And he's training his son, Chiefy, who's a committeeman, and he owns his own business, funeral home services. And I was telling Pat how good a job he's done with Chiefy by just being the role model, just having Chiefy with him by his side. And I guess Chiefy, I'm guessing middle, late 20s or something, I don't know. But I'm saying, and we have a lot of people like Pat Clark and other people out there just touching people every day. They don't have a platform to talk about it, but they're doing things every day to help our young men and women out there. And there's so many different groups out there. So there's more that we can do, but there's a lot of people doing a lot of things that just people don't know about.
Love it. And then my last question, just staying on the same topic. I know you've mentioned things that you do. Are there any initiatives through either the sheriff's department or the police department to get a little more connected to our youth to keep them off the streets? Outside of just, we see you doing something wrong, we pull you over, but that actual connection.
They have the POW Center where they have different sporting activities at the POW Center in Kansas City. But I think the connection with our community from law enforcement, whether it be deputy or police officer, is when you stop someone, instead of giving them a ticket, if it's a small infraction, they roll through a stop sign or something, give them a card and say, hey, if you ever need anything, give me a call. That's how you build relationships, not giving somebody 5 tickets because their car is not registered and they don't have insurance. Now, there's some enforcement we have to take, but, we're building relationships. And the problem in law enforcement, to me, we're not profit driven, so we're slow to change and we at poor customer service. And we were getting paid, based on customer satisfaction. A lot of us would be broke. But we don't treat it as a profit business, and it is a profit business because we're using taxpayers' money to do what we're going to do. So I'm trying to get the mindset to change with some people that need changing. We're here to serve. It's not about us. It's not about us winning. The conversation, getting the last word. Leave a business card, even if the person's mad. Leave a business card. Say if you ever need anything, and that's how we turn people around. Whether it be law enforcement or non-law enforcement, to build those relationships, and that's what we have to solve crime. We need people talking to us, but they have to trust us before they call us.
And that's what I was going to say. Like the relationship has to be built for the trust, because we talk about all of these crimes that happen in our communities that go unsolved. But a big reason that happens is because we don't have that relationship where we feel comfortable that we're able to trust law enforcement and say what we need to say. And so I appreciate you saying that. One last thing here before we get off, Ms. Buckner, she had a message for you. She said, I'd like to have a conversation with Chief Forte offline for advice on a personal matter. What is the best daytime to reach him? He will know me as Karen Taylor. My son is now 30 and an attorney in spite of his absent KCBD father. I know you did give your number before, but if you can maybe just give your number one more time with a decent time she could reach out to you, that'd be great.
816-492-1076. 816-492-1076. And you can call me anytime tomorrow. I might not call you right back or answer depending on what I'm doing, but I will get back with you tomorrow or early Saturday morning if I don't get back with you tomorrow.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Did you have any final words or last thoughts that you wanted to leave for the people before we go?
I just want to say thank you again for this opportunity. The people that's listening, use that number. If you need something, if it's something, legit, don't call me when you're getting stopped by the police and say, I know Sheriff Forte. Don't do that to me because I'm gonna hang up on you. But call me, use me, and I want to thank Cascade Media once again. And I'm hoping people support you all. This is a very important platform. We support all other forms of media, but this is one that's real. That's real, and we can talk about real things without fear of being cut and those kind of things. So just thank you again for this opportunity, and I ask that other people support Cascade in whichever way you all need support.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. For those of you that are tuning in, please share this with your network. Also visit whatsupkansascity.net and join our newsletter so you can stay abreast of everything going on in Kansas City. We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you again